Welcome back to another tier list episode here on Pro Tabletop. Today we're going to be talking about orcs, but before we get into it, make sure you hit the subscribe button, turn the notification bell on because you want to see when our content's coming out. And obviously, if you don't like this type of content, we got battle reports and everything like that coming out every week, so stay tuned to the channel for all different types of videos. We did Space Marines as the first video as our baseline, and now we're moving on. Big contention right here. We think orcs are super rated. Everyone else on the internet doesn't think orcs are super high on this. So we're going to get into our system and rate this. If you don't know how this system works at all, you need to go watch the first video where we explain it, because we're not explaining it in every single video. Maybe we should explain every video. Okay, I'll explain it in every video. You know what? I'm going to explain it in 0.52 seconds. We're rating it on these stats. These stats all are different things like durability, kill power, how they do on objectives. Oh, that was the time. I was like, at least a timeout.
Scale of 1 to 10. So, know, the higher the rating, the better it is in that particular category. We'll kind of talk through that, kind of give our thoughts and see, and then it'll add up to a final net score. So what your total score is, we'll hit a ranking, and we'll see if it kind of hits that S category that we thought, or S plus category.
Just go watch the Space Marine video and you'll understand.
So we put them, we had them ranked in the S plus. So we want to kind of see how they compare to the Space Marines and everything like that. So here, guys, I'll make this simple for you, and I'll put 10 boxes in every single one.
Boom, boom, boom.
And we're done.
We'll just...
No, I was going to say that's the video. They get a perfect 100.
Oh, we were right. We were right.
And again, if you watched our earlier tier list, right, those are our gut checks, kind of just off the cuff what we thought. And so this is we want to try to put a little bit more structure behind our rankings and see if it kind of lines up. Obviously, works. We've had some terrible or great experiences, depending on which side of the table you're on, from orcs. And maybe the internet doesn't quite feel that way. So I'm very curious to see how it lines up, because in my mind, orcs are very, very strong. I've seen several different builds, and both of them are scary, and both of them make me have to build my list differently to combat it. So, which is scary.
Starting with defense, what are you guys thinking as far as defensive on orcs, right? They die super easy. They do have the option of having invulns and feel no pains.
Yes, but do they die super easy?
So, yeah, the trick with orcs, or at least if they're playing the horde list. Oh, now he's done.
He's lost his bot.
I got it. It's fine. Just keep talking. I'll do it again.
Yeah, so if you get 3 boys, for example, and you don't kill them all, then they can green tide them, right, and bring them all the way back. So talking about a unit of 30 boys on an objective that they're got the invulnerable save, they maybe have 6 of feel no pain. Like, that's a lot of units to chew through, and if you don't get through them all, they potentially can all come back inside your deployment.
They can only green tide if it's under half. They have to be under half. Otherwise, they can't green tide.
But still, you have a squad of 30 boys. You kill 15 or 14 of them, right? You don't fully kill it. Even if you kill them down to 2.
Yeah, you kill them down to 2. They lose 1 guy, and then they're like, I didn't roll a 1 on the last guy. He's alive. Boom, I got the primary, and then I pop and I get 30 more guys back, and you got to do it all over again. And oh, by the way, I'm going to jump, or I'm going to make my 9-inch charge, and here we go. And then now I'm charging with those 30 boys being obnoxious, right? So that's very strong. You have mobility because you can jump these big units. You have mobility because you have the mech list where the little buggies, they're super fast. If you haven't seen the buggies,
crazy fast.
It's crazy. They can punch, they can shoot,
they can teleport.
You think their ballistic skill is crappy, but when you're re-rolling mastercrafted, like Death Skulls, it's surprising how many 6s come up, and you're like, oh, that's annoying. Like, they just hit you with a lot.
When we looked at the Space Marines, we took off points because they didn't have a built-in feel no pain, and we took off points for not having something like a high toughness, right? So when you look at them compared to Space Marines, more durable, less durable than Space Marines. Yes, for different reasons and whatnot. Space Marines are at an 8. How do they fall on that scale in between an 8 and a 10? Are they as durable as Space Marines? Are you gonna?
Maybe. I mean, not individually, but as a whole, I'd probably say yeah.
Are they more durable than Space Marines?
I don't think so. I think they still have. They're very difficult to kill with morale. Not that morale is really scary now for big units. just because they have the other crazy the mob rules or whatever. They have the mass bodies, so that's the durability of their own.
Mm-hmm.
And the ability to recycle. They can get an invulnerable save or feel no pain, so they can make them tough. I mean, their armor saves crap, but I mean, there's just so many of them, right? So
yes,
they make the armor saves almost irrelevant. And then if you're shooting something with no armor and they do roll 6-up, that in itself is frustrating, right? Because then you're like, oh wait, they should have just died. They didn't because they rolled.
Right. So we're gonna say that they're on par with Space Marines. Is that what you're feeling?
I think so. I mean,
well, the thing is, it's all. I mean, and this kind of goes into primary a little bit. It's because they're OBSEC too, so they're in the middle of the board.
So they're probably maybe a little less durable. Make them 7, just because overall their saves are all individually lower. You do have more bodies to kind of make up for that, but I think they're.
Yeah, but more bodies versus multi-wound, it ends up kind of starting to be the same for just a durability standpoint.
Yeah.
So then you have their offense.
It's pretty. It's okay.
It's okay. That's.
Yeah. I don't know that they're super killy, right? Their anti-tank options aren't really there from a shooting perspective. You got smashy guns, you got some tank busters. They're not necessarily killing you off the board. They can run up and punch you with claws and cannons, so that can do a lot of work.
The close combat, like with a squad of 30 boys, though, is disgusting. Like, you just physically can't make that many saves most of the time.
I don't know.
All right, doing it against your stupid dogs don't count. The general amount of swings that generates, especially when they're like exploding and stuff like that, it's just disgusting.
It's like 75 attacks coming out of a 30-man boy squad,
and it's like you can only make so many, even if you have two. Even if you have a 2-up save, like you're gonna fail some.
It's definitely true. Like you can't. I mean, I've sat there like I got 2-up saves. I'm gonna make a bunch. At some point, you're gonna fail some. It's really tricky. Just to, can they get enough bodies in there to swing?
Yeah.
But with their ability to advance and charge, the ability to still re-roll the individual dice with here we go, unless that changes, that's they can make pretty consistently make pretty high charges. So they're moving across the board offensively. They're very fast. And getting opposite guys in your lines that are hard to get shift, from a morale perspective that can come back. That's very highly offensive. So,
and you got the buggies that can deep strike and stuff like that, and get in your face and then bounce back away. So they do have a lot of.
They can teleport.
Yeah, they got some tricks. Yeah, so they're pretty reliable on their casting. They might lose their character, but it's hard to not make it go off.
So 5, 6, where are we at? 7. I struggle to say that.
I think 6 is fine.
Yeah,
I think 6. Like they're not going to overwhelm you individually. Yeah. It's kind of as they march across the board. Can you get them fast enough to stop? The primary is where I think they're really strong, right?
Yeah,
super
because,
strong.
Again, it's just like they get on an objective, and it's their work unit, right? They're going to kill you, or they're going to bully you, they're going to threaten you to be positioning just right, or they're going to overwhelm you, right? And if you don't get them all, they can still come back and hit a charge and be right back there being upsetting you, body.
You're exactly right, Bert. And the interesting thing about them, the way the mass boys, and that's just kind of what I'm focusing on, is it goes in waves, right? So that first wave on turn 1, they deep strike in, or they jump into the middle of the board. And then you have another squad that's running up behind them. So that first squad then makes the charge. Second squad is now on the objective, and it just keeps coming in waves.
So is there anything that takes them down from a 10 on primary? Because I think if there's one thing that they're going to have a 10 on, it's probably these objective parts of this ranking system.
I think you can leave them at a 10, honestly.
Yeah, I don't know how you don't, because you can't really screen them out, because that's just putting you guys closer for them to charge naturally.
Yep.
And you're pushing back, then that just gives them a mid-board to jump into and be bullying you, and that's something. So
yep.
I think they're very strong on the primary.
So now secondaries, when you look at them, like you've got psychic secondaries, which are kind of irrelevant for the most part. Engage on all fronts is easy. Honestly, probably getting Linebreaker could be easy. Teleport homers, raise the banner, anything that has to do with doing actions, they're going to be very good at, because they have a lot of troops and bodies and infantry, I guess I should say, right? There's so much infantry that are not characters that could perform all of these actions for them.
Little grunt squads running around, not threatening. You're not going to bother shooting them, but oh look, they're getting to play scramblers. They're raising the banner. Like, yeah, what a pain.
And then a 30 squad of boys goes and does teleport homer in your deployment zone. What? Okay.
Yeah, they want to be there anyway, and then by the way, they're just happen to be scoring some great secondaries for them. Like,
yeah,
it's like a double whammy on you.
The only thing that they might struggle with is like against a huge tank list for Bring It Down, because they might struggle at killing. But in the turn of 5 turns, if they were forced to pick that as a secondary, let's just say there's no other secondaries they could pick, with boys just wrapping vehicles and stuff like that, eventually they're going to kill them with that many swings and stuff. But then they also do have a lot of their anti-tank guns and things like that.
Yeah,
it might just take them a while to do it.
Yeah, I don't even think they bother with Bring It Down. Like, there's so many maneuver secondaries
that it doesn't matter. Like, you might not, you don't think they'll ever get stuck needing to pick that.
Yeah, not really. Unless it is like a mechanized list, and that's what they specialize in, sure, which they could do.
And they could give up some secondaries. So I guess can you rate them as negative for denying secondaries?
Yeah, definitely. So like they give up, like
they give up secondaries. Yeah.
If you're taking the mass boys list, you're giving up thin the line. Mm-hmm. You're giving up, if they take a heavy mech list, you're giving up big game hunter or whatever.
Easy.
But that's really the only secondary that they really give up is going to be one of those two, depending on which list you're playing against.
Well, that's not true. Assassinate, they give that up.
They typically have
like 7 characters. Pretty easy.
Yeah, so I mean, it's kind of like they're embedded in the main force. So if you can kind of chew through the boys and get into the characters, but again, if you're trying to do that, have you done enough to stop the primary?
And that's one category that they're failing in, right? Because all 3 of those are in the same category.
Yeah.
Mm.
So like the only category of the secondary that they are giving up or potentially bad at.
Well, no, I'd say like grind them down too, right? Like you could easily kill more of orc stuff than they could kill of yours. For sure.
You think so? I would disagree with that.
So
would you like? I mean, so let's say like a lot of grot units. Like you can kill a smash gun here, a smash gun there, but then it starts being like, did I kill the big boy squad or not? Right? Like that's only accounts for 1, right? Where you got these little 5-man squads that.
So I think you get it for 2 out of 5 turns, maybe 3 if you're lucky, depending on what the list matchups are.
So I mean, I just feel like if your list can deal with mobs, we'll say, or horde armies, if you can deal with horde armies and you pick up, let's say, like a boy squad plus a smasher gun, which is pretty easy to do, I think, generally speaking. I mean, they can't kill back like that.
Right.
But that's just from my perspective. So.
Yeah, I look at it as most lists might be able to do that for 2 turns, and then your list is going to be whittled down so much or spread out so much because you're trying to counter their board control presence that you're not going to be able to kill more because you're not going to be able to focus on a single unit to kill it.
Okay.
That's where my argument would be on the orc side. Yeah. We can knock them down 1. I think I just don't know that the potential of choosing...
I think you're right. I think generally with secondaries, they're going to max most of their secondaries. I mean, unless you've just won the game against them, right? Like, they're going to max their secondaries, and, like, it's not super easy to pick against them. Like, you basically have to be like, can I table this army, or can I not table this army? Like, that's kind of where it comes down to.
Even if they do give up a little bit more secondary points, they're probably giving up less and making it a little harder to choose than a lot of other armies. And if they do give up the secondaries, they don't care because you're probably losing the primary, right? So them giving up secondaries is not as big of a deal as many other armies. It probably will be a big of a deal.
That's true. Like for Marines, like if you have a small monocount Marine army, you're bleeding, giving up secondaries to other armies that are maneuvering, deploying scramblers. Like you can't stop that. You can't afford to like screen out your board with no troops, right? So.
Yep, I'm sticking firm. I want them at a 9, unless you guys want to bring them down to an 8. I'm sticking with a 9.
I'm good.
Okay, so CPs. The list that I've seen, not super CP dependent. I guess the buggy list used a little bit more CP, but they kind of had a lot of CP, and they didn't need it. So
yeah,
the boys squads need it though. The boys squads need it
just to come back, but like it's not. You're not doing that every time.
Yeah, it's like that, and then if you have the dragstas, it's like to jump the dragstas back. Like there's not a whole lot of things that they need it on.
And if you're like halfway through the game and you're out of CP, it's not like the orc stopped working, right? Like
Yeah. And the couple games we've seen, a lot of the orc players will save the 2 it's 2 CP, right, to Green Tide?
Yeah.
It's either 2 or they raised it to 3. I can't remember, but
I think it's 2. So like what they'll do, right, is they'll be like, oh, I have this 12 CP to start with. Well, I'm good to go until I get down to this 2, and then if they have 1 or 2 boy squad left, they just need those 2 CP for the last turn or last, either turn 4 or turn 5. But because you get CP back on turn 4 and turn 5, realistically, they can burn all of their CP in turn 1, 2, and 3, and then they can get a CP on 4 and 5 or 3 and 4 and bring an entire squad back in that turn 4 or turn 5.
Or they can even still mob up too, right? That's another thing they can do.
Yeah.
They can just combine 2 units if they wanted to. And that's only 1 CP for that.
Yeah, so I feel like their strats are really good that they have. They're not 100% reliant on them. Their pregame does not allow them, they don't need to spend CP pregame. As far as
you're right. It's 3 CP, buddy.
It's 3.
For the Unstoppable Green Tide.
They fact it up, I think, yeah. And you can only do it once, I think, right? It's not like you can keep doing it.
So like what would cause them to lose points?
Battle.
What would cause them to lose points in this? Like, they're not CP heavy. They don't eat a lot of CP pregame. Their strat and CP stuff is good that they can spend the CP on. Where's it bad? Where's it bad on?
So like, I don't know.
I don't know. I don't have an answer. I don't have an answer that brings this away from them. Does anybody in the comments have an answer? Let us know, and we'll go back and take a point off of them. But I don't have a reason in my mind.
The only thing I think of is they don't have like 1,000 strats like Space Marines that are like relevant in like game breaking.
Okay,
that's true.
Okay.
I'd put it down to 8. I'd put it down to 8 for that. Yeah, I'd put it down
to 8. They're gonna lose 2 for that, huh? Okay.
Because it's right. Like so you have your they cover themselves with their rerolls for charges, right? So you don't really have to ever do that. The only thing that we're talking about really is just like Warp Head being able to cast an extra spell, I guess. Grot Shield, that's a relevant one.
Bringing the Green Tide, bringing it back. Maybe the jumping stuff for the buggies. Maybe like I loot a vehicle that can come and surprise you. And
we can't forget showing off though. That's a big one.
Yeah,
that's a big one. They could shoot a second time.
So still here, or are they getting one more?
It's just not like I just don't feel like they have stratagems where they can use things as like a Swiss Army knife, right? They have like things that they do or things that they don't do. Sure. The rest of the stratagems they don't use.
Yeah, you kind of build your army around that 1 or 2 strats, right? It's not like this. I'm reaching my bag of tricks and I'm going to surprise you. Like
so then their list flexibility. They've got a lot of different units.
It's quite limited. You're either doing a mech list right now. You're either doing a mech list or you're doing a boys list.
Yeah.
So like, there's not really.
I don't think they have a huge list flexibility.
So that's right now. So break it down a little further though. Like, as the meta changes and shifts, do they have stuff within their codex to be able to adjust to that? Or are they only going to have these 2 lists no matter what happens and what changes?
I don't know. So part of me is like, well, if I'm building the Marine list, because everything in my brain is how do I build my Marine list to deal with what XYZ? And if it's a really heavy list on tanks, I can build a really heavy anti-tank list. If it's really heavy on infantry, I can build it. But to kind of build to take all comers, well, I'm kind of good at one or the other. The skew list of all infantry or all tanks like really messes me up, right? And they're really good at that, right? Their builds are really heavy one way or the other. You can certainly build like a truck boy list where you have tanks and guys jumping out of trucks.
Which you actually played against that list at the tournament.
Yeah, so it's kind of interesting. So I think they got some flex in there, but it's not like there's not like 20 builds of orcs, right? Like
I mean, they have things that we're not seeing right now, like tank busters. We're not really seeing too many tank busters. Those are pretty darn awesome. Like we're not seeing a lot of knobs. Knobs are okay. We're not really seeing Ludas right now, even.
Didn't see a lot of Ludas.
Ludas are amazing.
I don't know if it's just like the -1 is not enough to just punch through. Mitigation of the 2 damage, the Grot shield expensive. Grots went up in points. Is it worth the investment in all these Grots to protect that unit?
I mean, it's just because you don't have to kill stuff right now. Right now,
Yeah.
you literally just have to have board control. So the lists are board control lists. They're not killing lists.
Yeah.
But they have the ability to do killing lists if they have to, right? But then they're going to lose some board control.
I'd put them in 8 or 9 because they do have a lot of stuff in here where they could. They got pretty cool planes like the Burnabombas.
Yeah, those are really good. They were really good at the end of 8th.
Yeah, they are really good.
They're pretty gnarly. And a lot of their like those Gorkonauts and stuff too, and Killicans. Those are actually pretty. Those are annoying. Like I don't know why nobody's using them. They're annoying though. Like I don't know. They got some interesting stuff that we're just not seeing yet. That could be used.
So you think 8 or 9, Thomas? What do you think? 8 or 9, or lower, or higher?
I'm like 7 or 8 for me.
Okay.
Okay.
So what about you, Bert? What about you, Brad?
I think I'm good with an 8. I think that there's so many different types of units that they can pick from to adjust to the meta, or if the missions change and things like that. I think that there is a lot that they have access to.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Like even the war bikers, like I mean, why
are commandos that can be upsec? Like it's crazy, right? Like
yeah.
Storm boys.
So guess where that puts them, guys?
I mean, what points is that?
It's 48.
48. Oh, they're just right below S.
Oh no!
It's like the internet said, they're not good.
That's still pretty good though. It's pretty good. High.
Yeah. All right. So that does it for Orcs, everybody. If you didn't watch the first video, go back and watch it. We got one of these coming out, pretty consistently until we get through all the factions. Let us know in the comments what you think, how you'd rate stuff differently. Like, comment, subscribe, do all the fun things, and yeah, see you next time.